Now, without further ado, the main man, Hussein Mourtada, come on up. Let's give him a round of applause. He's going to be our second speaker tonight. Oh, yes. The man, the myth, the legend, Hussein Mourtada.
Thank you, Steven. That was a great speech again. I have to say, I learned a lot from you today. It was a great story, great experience. Hello, everybody. My name is Hussein Mourtada. Anybody hear me? Okay. My girlfriend says I'm very soft-spoken, so she says, speak up. You can hear me. All right. All right. So I've been vegan for many years as well, but my story is different from Steven. And I was born and grew up in Africa. So the stuff that we did, I always say, if I can be vegan, anybody can be vegan. And the reason is the way we used animals was we did the most horrible things to them. So I grew up in a home in West Africa, and the animals were killed in our backyards. So as a kid, when I first saw a chicken killed, I thought it was horrible. I know Steve talked about slaughterhouse. For me, it was our backyard was a slaughterhouse. After I saw that as a kid, I would not eat chicken for a while, but then parents, the indoctrination started very early, right? Because society says that's what we have to eat. So my parents thought that's healthy food for us. So like, you got to eat, otherwise you're not going to get your protein, you're not going to be healthy, you're going to get sick and die. Right? That's how I was indoctrinated, I was brainwashed. And then another time when I was a teenager, so I followed the norm. When I was a teenager, I went with my mom because actually my dad did not kill cows in the backyard, but there was a butcher who killed cows. It was like once a week. So I went with my mom and I saw a cow being killed. And that again was another horrible event that I saw. And I would not eat meat for a long time. But again, I was told, I was an athlete growing up, and they're like, you gotta eat meat, otherwise you're not gonna be able to perform, you're not gonna be healthy. And also, in Africa, one of the things you do is you hunt. So where I grew up, is a rite of passage, you go out and you hunt. So as a kid, I went once with my uncle my first time, and we thump our chest and say, oh, we're men, we're tough, what do? We stand from a distance with a gun and shoot a whole helpless animal, and that makes us think we're tough, we're the alpha males, right? And you see that here as well. Society still thinks that way. When you do brutal, evil things, you're considered tough. When you do kind things, you're considered weak. And it's, to me now, what I've learned is you're stronger when you do kind things than evil stuff. It's easy for us to lose our temper and do terrible things, but it's much harder to be kind and gentle. So you are stronger when you're kind and gentle to all species, whether it's humans or animals. So what got me started on my journey? So growing up in Africa, like I mentioned to you, so this is the lifestyle that I lived. I did not know any vegans in Africa growing up. I came here to the U.S. to go to college, and I saw, actually let me go back a little bit. We also had dogs. So dogs were guard animals. We did not think of them as family members like they are here, as men and best friends. So we actually abused dogs as well. We used them as our guards, basically. So it's pretty bad. I mean, any animal that you can think of, any atrocity, we probably committed. So there was a lot of indoctrination. That's the mindset I had. So when I came here, it was the same thing. And then the first person that I actually met that was a vegetarian was a colleague. His daughter would not eat animals, and we had a cookout, a barbecue for the company I was working for. And he said his daughter is a vegetarian. She is? What does that mean? She said she doesn't eat animals. And I was one of the jerks that, kept teasing her. I was trying to, come on, this is good for you, it's healthy. And she was smarter than I was, and she was a teenager actually. She's like, no, I don't eat animals, I don't eat cows. They're my friends. Actually, she said something like that. I thought, that's interesting. So that was my first exposure to it. As Steve was saying earlier, it's not, this lady was gentle with me. I didn't have Steve, if I had had Steve, I would have been a vegan right away. But she was gentle with me, so that was the first seed that was planted. And then somebody else I was talking to, another co-worker, was a vegetarian. It was an Indian gentleman from India. And he was just a vegetarian, and he said, why do you eat cows, and the philosophy behind it. I started thinking, I'm like, you know what, when I was a kid, and Steve alluded to that, if you are a kid without this indoctrination, when you meet an animal, you want to play with them. You don't want to grab them and eat them and kill them. That's not your nature, that's not our nature. But we get indoctrinated. So all this evil stuff that we do for animals is stuff that we've been trained, by society, like Steve said, and ads, actually commercials here. In Africa, we didn't have that. It was just family and society that taught me that. And the other part, growing up in Africa, that I saw, we ate most all animals. Apes. You could see the school I went to was in the middle of a jungle. You could see natives come out with, a monkey or a baboon strapped to their back that they just hunted and killed. So these are things we saw. And when I was a kid also in school, I remember my parents would go and take us out of school because they said cannibals were attacking our village. So there was cannibalism as well in some areas of that country. So these are things that I look at and I say, really, we can be indoctrinated to eat anything. And the belief of the cannibals is that they felt that if they ate somebody, they acquired their spirit and their strength. And this was the mentality they had. If it was somebody brave, they felt if they killed them and ate them, they become brave too. It's added into their nature. So it's just really crazy stuff. And so what got me started into it? So I started thinking about all this, and I said, you know what? I need to live my values. So the first thing I did is I called up, I have one of my brothers is a doctor, he's in Boston, and I called him up and I said, I want to be a vegetarian. And he said, well, he's a trained doctor. He said, you need to be careful, you might get sick. Where are you going to get your protein? Where are you going to get your calcium? These are all the questions that probably most of us have heard. Maybe not some of you, not married, and you guys were brought up right, so you knew everything about what we've been lied to. So our lives really is lies, like all the atrocities that Steve was talking about, whether it's atrocities to other humans where we think we're better than, for whatever reason, or animals that were superior to them. You can use that and justify anything. There's something that I noticed as well is that committing genocide, for example, how is that enabled? It's misinformation and fear. So if you use these two techniques, you can have people compromise their values. You can make them do anything. Misinform them and make them afraid. But if you, and vegans, I know, which we challenge, we are different. When we challenge the norm, we'll question everything. We're not going to be afraid. Doesn't matter what you tell us. And if you inform us something, we always want to learn about it. We're going to go investigate it, right? So that curiosity, as long as you keep that in the back of your mind, you're not going to be brainwashed. The other part that I know that Stephen, you were asking Mary about peer pressure, right? When you're in school. So being a vegan, it's changing now a lot. Most people know what vegan is. But when you're a vegan, you get peer pressure from your family members. I am the weird one in the family. I question everything. So my family is big. There's 11 kids altogether. So when they have family events, I'd be there, and I'm the weird one. So everybody's like, oh, I've always been like a pain in the ass, basically. They have to make something special for me, or I have to bring my own food, right? And some of you probably might have encountered that when you go to family events, you do that. To the point where Thanksgiving, I don't do that with them, like Stephen was saying. When I sit on the table and they think they're having turkey, I see them. I told one of my brothers that, I said, I want to go bury them in the backyard. I said, these poor animals have been tortured, abused, and killed. I want to take them and bury them, rather than eat them. They think we're celebrating. The other thing that you hear people talk about as well is that You know, how do you know somebody's a vegan? Is everybody a vegan here? Everybody is? Yeah? Nobody? Anybody that's not a vegan? No, okay. So one of the jokes we have is about, you know, how do you know somebody's a vegan? You hear this from people, they go, don't worry, they'll tell you. So why do we tell people we're vegans? It's not that we go, you know, like, you know, Stephen was saying, some of us are more aggressive than others, right? Some people are closet vegans and don't want to rock the boat because of peer pressure. They don't want people to think you're weird, you're different. So we are cautious about saying it out loud. But everything we do revolves around food. So 3 times a day, you have at least 3 meals a day, some people, maybe some people have less, but every day you have to have a meal. So when you're doing something with people, usually it involves food. So when they ask you, you go, I'm a vegan. So for me, it's easier to say I'm vegan than to say I don't eat meat, I don't eat chicken, I don't want to go down through a list of 100 different things that I don't eat or drink, right? I say I'm vegan. And if they don't know what it is, then I'll take the time to explain it to them. So that's the part that they try to ridicule us about being vegans. You know, you're vegan, you know, we're always talking about it. We're not really. It's people ask us. And the other part for me, when I was working, I work high tech, so I work in many different corporations. I don't go out and I'm not aggressive with people. If they ask me, I say I'm vegan, straight out. And if they ask why, I tell them why. But every time, and no matter where I am, there was a company I worked at where my boss said, well, I'm not going to tell people that you're a vegan because I said, why? They want to treat you properly. I said, really? For being vegan? She's like, yeah, some people don't like vegans, so I'm not going to tell people. And I would sit in my office, I used to bring my food in, and some people would walk in that knew I was vegan because they want to have group lunches or whatever. I'm vegan, I'll go with you if it's a vegan restaurant. And when it's not, I stay and eat. But people would bring their sandwiches and come and basically heckle me. Guess what I'm eating today? I'm like, I don't know, what are you eating? And somebody would tell me, oh, I'm eating, you know, deer meat or something. I'm like, oh, lamb meat. And people would hear my comments back and go, why are you so, why are you so such an extremist? You know, I said, you hear what they said. Another part is somebody, you know, I had some coworkers, I used to travel a lot as well. They'd come in with pictures of animals that they hunted just to aggravate me. And they put them up, and I said to them, I said, you think you're brave? I said, that's the most cowardly thing I ever did in my life, is hunt an animal. There's nothing brave about hunting an animal. I said, if you think you're brave, go to the jungles of Africa without a weapon and try to find a predator and see if you can fight them. You know, go after a lion who sees you as food, right? So there's nothing, and people think that way. You know, anytime they know you're a vegan, they try to ridicule you or put you down. So it's not, you have to be tough. Like Steve was saying, you gotta have a tough skin. Otherwise, you know, they can peer pressure you to compromising your values. Yeah. And for young kids, it happens a lot because I have some relatives in my family where the kids say, "Oh, I want to be vegan," like, you know, Uncle Hussein, but the family puts pressure on them. Their friends put pressure on them, you know, and they end up caving because they don't have the support structure around them. When Steve was saying surround yourself by vegans, that helps you. You know, if you're in your early stages of being a vegan. After that, after you build enough strength, then they probably know nothing will phase you. So that's all I have to say. I'm going to open it up to Steve covered a lot of great stuff, and I appreciate it. No, that's very good. I'm going to open it up to questions. If anybody has a question and answer, I don't bore you. I know most of you are vegan, so you know a lot of stuff about it. If you want to know about health, I'll tell you one story about health for me. So one of the things that I was told, and this is interesting, right? So about misinformation, when I said, one of my brothers said, you know, you have to eat meat to be healthy. I started developing allergies when I came here to the US. I had allergies to fruits and nuts, which was really bad. I first went vegetarian, so my allergies to fruits and nuts never went away. And it's basically autoimmune disease, right? So until I became a vegan, because I wanted to see, I was misinformed, and I didn't go out there and research it. I'm like, I'm not going to eat meat anymore, I'm going to see what happens. So I became a vegetarian first, eliminated things a little at a time from my diet. and I felt healthier, but my allergies never went away. After I became a vegan, I think it was like maybe 1 or 2 months after that, my allergies cleared up. I could eat anything, I can eat anything now. So I went back to my brother and I said, by the way, I don't know what they teach in your med school, but being a vegan and following a whole food plant-based diet is the best diet in the world. And it absolutely is. And now he understands it, but he jokes with me, he goes, if everybody was vegan, I wouldn't have any patients. And I said to him, I said, well, maybe, the doctors need to be able to, one of the ways that the medical field should change is teaching people how to prevent diseases rather than treating them, treating the symptoms, right? The symptoms, you never can fix a problem if you're just treating the symptoms. And as most of you know, heart disease, you can prevent heart disease, quite a few forms of cancer, high blood pressure, diabetes, and even the reverse type 2 diabetes with following a plant-based diet. So from the health perspective, you have nothing to lose, absolutely, you have everything to gain. Anybody that tells you that it's not healthy doesn't know what the heck they're talking about. If you have a doctor that tells you that, switch, find another doctor. There is something that goes in your mind. You've heard about the placebo effect, right? You guys know what the placebo effect is, right? So if you think something is good or healthy, like when they're doing tests for some medicines, for example, some people are getting sugar pills, and they take the sugar pills and they think they're getting medicine that makes them heal whatever problem they have, even though it's sugar pills, and their problem goes away. So that's the placebo effect, where in your mind you think you're getting some medicine that's curing you. So that's the good part. But there's also something called the nocebo effect. That's the negative placebo effect. And what that does is, if you think you lack something, you can make yourself sick just by thinking about it, that you're missing something and you're going to be sick. You will get sick. Okay? So these are things you have to keep in mind when you're going down this journey. Some people crave, one of the biggest things you do, like for me, is I started craving meat because I was such an addict. Food is addictive. Whatever we've been conditioned with, from childhood, you get very addicted to food. I could smell chicken and I'd feel sick because I wanted it. I craved it so bad. I was like a junkie. So you will crave stuff when you first start switching, but eventually it will go away and your health will be incredible because it will be the best thing you can do. Thank you very much, and I'll open up to any questions if anybody has any questions. Steve, I don't think there's any questions.
No questions.
I know you have some good stuff you're going to share.
Thank you. One more round of applause for Hussein Mourtada.